Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place you come to get past the noise, the headlines, all that's rolling to really understand what's going on. And today we are jumping headfirst into something that, well, it always gets people talking, doesn't it? Love across generations, especially when it's happening out there in the spotlight. I mean, think about it. How does society really react when a relationship doesn't fit the usual age mold? It's rarely quite acceptance. We've all seen that play out. So our mission today, to unpack a story that's got everyone talking, arguing, maybe even a bit confused. We're looking at the rumored, and yeah, pretty controversial, romance between Nicki Nicole, the Argentine superstar who's 25, and Lamine Yamal, the Spanish football prodigy, he's just 18. Now let's get this straight right away, like our sources point out. Legally, totally above board. Nothing illegal here in either of their countries, but, and this is where a deep dive really starts, and the court of public opinion, whoa, totally different story. It set things off. So we want to dig into how celebrity aged those numbers and just the sheer weight of what everyone thinks, how it all crashes together. We'll help you see past the headlines and the social media fights to get at what's really going on here. Because this wasn't just some quiet rumor. It basically exploded like wildfire across social media. Suddenly, it seemed like overnight, everyone knew and everyone had a take. Fans especially just couldn't wrap their heads around it. You got Nicki Nicole, huge voice in Latin music, massive influence, and suddenly she's linked with a teenager, someone who's, well, barely an adult by a lot of people's standards. That contrast alone just sent shockwaves. It was a real wait, what moment for so many people online.
Absolutely. And that initial wait, what? Just instantly split into these really strong opposing camps. Our sources really emphasize how fast that happened. So on one side, you had people really getting behind them, saying it was inspiring, love conquers all, age is just a number, that kind of thing. Let consenting adults be happy. They saw it as maybe challenging old-fashioned ideas about who should be together, a brave move even.
Right, the love has no rules argument.
Exactly, but then just as quickly you got this really loud counter-argument, people calling it predatory, or if not that, then at least, questionable, problematic. They were pointing to the age gap, sure, but also the perceived power difference.
Yeah.
Here's this globally famous artist, 25 years old, established, and an 18-year-old who's really just starting out in his adult life, even if he's a sports star. And what's really fascinating, and this is key from our sources, is how fast it stopped being just about them. It wasn't Nicki and Lamine anymore. It blew up into this global debate about ethics, maturity, power dynamics, all the big stuff. It tapped into these deeper anxieties we have as a society.
That speed is incredible. And it makes you think about Nicki Nicole herself. You mentioned these parasocial bonds fans have. What did the sources say about how her fans reacted? That must have been intense.
Oh, it was. Yeah, the sources really highlight this. Her own fan base, the people who adore her, who follow her every move, they were split right down the middle. It was profound. So half of them jumped to her defense immediately, passionately arguing, love is love, age doesn't matter, it's her life, her choice. Total unconditional support almost.
Defending her freedom.
Exactly. But the other half, they felt really strongly that she'd crossed the line. Maybe not legally, but ethically or just in terms of optics. For them, it wasn't just about love, it was about responsibility, her image, his age. It hits on that whole idea of parasocial relationships you brought up.
Right.
Fans feel this connection like they know the celebrity. And when the celebrity does something that clashes with that image, or the fan's own morals, it can feel like a betrayal almost. And that pressure, especially on a female artist, it's immense. She's not just a person dating someone, she's a brand, an icon. Every move gets put under this microscope, filtered through those intense but one-sided fan feelings.
Wow, walking a tightrope doesn't even cover it. So how do artists usually even try to handle that kind of split within their own fan base when your personal life becomes this public war zone?
Well, the sources suggest it's pretty much impossible to make everyone happy in that situation. So the strategy often becomes this careful dance between maintaining privacy where you can, maybe strategic silence, and then sometimes subtle ways of asserting their autonomy, their right to choose. But for Nicki, it's even harder because she's a woman.
How so?
The sources mentioned studies showing female celebrities consistently face harsher judgment for their relationships than men do. They're just different standards, stricter rules, often unspoken ones.
Right.
So for her, it's not just about the relationship itself. It's navigating these gendered expectations about how she should behave. Lemon, as a young guy, probably doesn't face that exact same kind of scrutiny.
And speaking of Lamine Yamal, His side of this is fascinating too, because he wasn't just anyone. He's like the future of Spanish football, right? A huge talent. Our sources paint him as this kid who literally made history at the Euros, an incredible achievement. His whole public image up to then was pure athlete, skill, potential, the game.
Exactly. Pure sporting prowess. But then, bam, this rumor hits, and suddenly his name is everywhere, but for a totally different reason. Dragged into this massive controversy he presumably never signed up for. And the way people saw him just shifted instantly. He wasn't just the amazing young player anymore.
No.
He became the teenager dating the older woman. And suddenly everyone, sports fans, people who don't even follow football, they all had an opinion on his private life. Which, as our sources point out, raises a really serious question. What does that do to the young person, someone that talented whose career is just taking off?
Yeah.
How does that kind of intense personal spotlight, that sudden shift in identity, affect someone who's still developing, still figuring things out, on top of dealing with global fame already?
It's a massive weight. Could crush anyone, really. And the sources, they don't mince words. They call the backlash brutal. This wasn't just some grumbling online. It was like an avalanche. Headlines everywhere, serious news outlets, gossip sites, all dissecting every little thing, every photo, every appearance, on social media, looking for proof or just something to talk about. And then the memes started. You know how that goes. Often cruel, boiling down this really complex human situation into these simplistic, often nasty jokes. It just became a spectacle.
It's wild how fast nuance gets lost, just flattened into a meme. And our sources suggest this kind of thing can trigger what some call a moral panic.
A moral panic?
Yeah, it's like society gets anxious about something, maybe a behavior or a group that seems to threaten, deeply held values. In this case, values around age, maturity, power in relationships. So the shock wasn't just, oh, they might be dating. It quickly morphed into speculation. Whispers got louder. People started questioning why. Motivations. Was Nicki trying to protect her career somehow? Or was this kind of controversy actually damaging it?
And for Yamal, the questions were just as intense, right? What beyond just the relationship itself?
Oh, absolutely. For him, it became about, can he handle this? Is he actually, emotionally equipped for this level of drama and pressure? He's 18, legally an adult, yes. But there's that whole concept. Our sources bring up developmental age versus just the number, chronological age. An 18-year-old, generally speaking, just doesn't have the same life experience, maybe the same emotional resilience, the same solid sense of self as a 25-year-old.
Right, regardless of the law.
Exactly. And that difference, that perceived gap in life stage and maturity, not just fame or money, that's what really fuels a lot of the concern about the power dynamic.
That's a really important distinction, and it makes you think, doesn't it, about the stories we build around famous people. We project so much onto them, our own ideas, our fears. We turn real people into these simple characters, and their story really hit that nerve. It became this messy knot of passion for some and huge controversy for others. The lines got totally blurred, so fans weren't just watching, they were genuinely torn. Stuck between admiring them as individuals, maybe liking their connection, and feeling the sense of outrage or at least deep discomfort from those saying it was just wrong. It felt like you had to pick a side. Some people were all in. It's a beautiful, unconventional love story, freedom, passion. Others were just as convinced. It's a scandal, full of ethical red flags, maybe even exploitation. There wasn't much room for a middle ground, it seemed. Just admiration or condemnation.
Yeah. It became very black and white for many. So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, it's really clear, isn't it? The Nicki Nicole and Lamine Yamal story, it's like a case study for these bigger issues.
Yeah.
It shows you the sheer, almost scary power of public opinion now, especially with social media. How a private thing becomes global news instantly, often fueled by those moral panics we talked about.
Definitely.
It makes us look hard at our own societal rules about age gaps. Who gets to decide what's okay? What's ethical? When is it our business? And, maybe most importantly, it really highlights the incredibly tough spot celebrities are in. Their private lives aren't private. They become these global shows, picked apart by millions, often without any thought for, their actual age or what they might be going through personally. Understanding all that helps, I think. Helps you cut through the noise a bit, see the bigger picture behind the headlines.
Absolutely. And when you peel back all those layers, the headlines, the memes, the online arguments, the core question from our sources just hangs there, doesn't it? It's really a question for you listening right now. When the whole world is watching your every move, analyzing everything, judging the power dynamics, can love actually survive that? That kind of intense, brutal pressure? What do you think? How much can any relationship take before it just cracks under that external judgment?
And that leads to maybe the final thought for everyone listening. What's our role in all this? What responsibility do we have when we comment, when we share, when we judge? How does all our collective noise, our instant takes, our quickness to label things actually shape what love even looks like or means in public? And what does it really take for a relationship to be considered valid or real when it has to exist under that kind of relentless, often unforgiving public microscope, even if between the two people it's consensual and legal? Something to really think about long after we stop talking about this specific story.